Have you ever gone through a situation in which he was called on to be present at an event, a meeting, a friendship, or even a simple family get-together, but at the same time as he arrived, he realized that something wasn't quite right? Perhaps you felt that uncomfortable feeling of not belonging fully, to be treated in such a way that in practice does not have space for a fact. It is an experience that many of the bear, even though a few times to be able to put it into words. Do you ever feel that way? It is as if, in spite of being there, it was just a formality, an obligation, and not a listing genuine. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out now. You will be surprised. Many times, what appears to be a simple matter to beds, seats, or mobile, in fact, revealed in a message, in silent, full of deep meanings, and sometimes painful. It is as if, for the back of a gesture, a seemingly harmless escondesemos is a fact that very few want to admit or exclude, and the racism shown, in the sense of not being welcome you to the truth. These experiences happen more often than you think, and they are crossing not only the borders of a room or for a party, but also on the borders of emotions that form on the inside of us, when we treated them with indifference or contempt. Picture the scene. You come in, encouraged it, hoping that eventually it will be rejected. In his heart, there is hope that this time it will be different and you will be seen. His presence will be appreciated. But when you come together, it changes everything. The looks, the attitudes, the world around him suggested otherwise. And in that moment, you realize that the deletion is not just in the broken chair or in the absence of a physical space, but the hidden message that it conveys. And this is where it all starts to make sense. It is not always what is seen is the most important thing. A lot of times, the code of silence and gestures are not said to carry messages. They can hurt and show themselves in a society that still have a lot to think about. So, stay with me here, because this story goes beyond what the eye can see, and it turns out it may be more common than you might think. If you can identify with the story, here's a call for you to leave a comment. Tell us about your experience, your opinions, or even the feeling that came when you listened to the story. Your voice is critical to build the community, because it is through his word that we can create a space for the exchange of sincere and learn from each other. In addition, if this message has touched you in any way, please like the video. Each like is an incentive for more people to have access to this content and are able to reflect on the issues so important to you. And of course, if you want to continue with these stories, ideas, and conversations that provide an in-depth consideration, please subscribe to the channel. Your being here is what makes this space to grow and to reach more people and to strengthen our mission to promote empathy and understanding. So don't hesitate to leave your comments and enjoy the video. And if you sign up because together we can make a difference to spread this message and transform perceptions. The story is far from over, and the best part comes with the front of it. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the real transformation, is precisely those details that often go unnoticed. It is as if, behind every decision we make, there is an invisible layer of beliefs, fears, and perceptions are shaped the course of the time, often unconsciously, that guide our actions without being noticed. When we begin to understand the functioning of the internal, it all gets a whole new perspective. This is a journey of self-discovery reveals that many of our limitations does not come from external factors, but internal narrative that we have created and strengthened over the years. And this narrative is fueled by our own experiences and the feedback we've heard, for the expectations they have placed in us, often without our notice, and for a number of different social conditions that shape the way at an early age. When you understand this, you begin to understand what is the real impact on our lives. It is not the external circumstances, but in the way that we interpret our circumstances. A change of mentality, which is more subtle as it may seem, it manages to make the narrative is built, paving the way for a new understanding of the self and of the world. It's like, all of a sudden, we see beyond the shadows and always forced him to see the truth hidden behind the surface. This is true, it is plain, that we are the creators of our own reality. Our everyday decisions are what makes the path of who we are. And then comes the question of the power of small actions that often seem insignificant, but they do have a profound impact on our way of processing. Each and every choice we make, every thought that we have cultivated, reinforce, or challenge our deepest beliefs. When you begin to question those beliefs in order to be validated that it really makes sense for us to open up a door for a change. This, in fact, come from one day to the next, but a series of small, conscious decisions, of a pursuit to seek out the truth of their own, even if it goes against what we've been taught or imposed by any third party. It is at this point that we begin to understand the behind the scenes of our minds. What are the voices that drive us forward? And what are the ones that try to keep us in the comfort zone? How can we tell the difference between what is truth and what is a narrative designed to be limited? These questions are critical in this journey of discovery, because they help us to realize that true freedom comes from the inside, with a clear decision to break the old patterns and embrace a new attitude towards life. And, in doing so, the impact is manifested not only in our own self-worth, but also on our ability to have a positive impact on the environment around us. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the understanding that our everyday everyday decisions shape our reality, this is just the beginning. The thing that really makes the difference is the consistency of the process of change, to keep an eye out for those with small actions, and above all, to learn how to listen to you, even with all their heart. Many times we are so busy trying to please the world and to meet the expectations of others that you forget to listen to our own voice, the one that tells us what is really important to us. When we give space to the voice within, the journey takes on a new meaning. A force is that which pushes us forward even in the face of the most challenging obstacles. This connection is internal one. This is in tune with who you are. In fact, that is what makes it possible for a transformation to a genuine change of mindset that goes beyond the superficialities and stood at the core of all of our experiences. And that's when you realize the impact of all of this is much more than we do ourselves. With each step taken in the direction of the echo in the lives of the people close to you, the community, and in society as a whole. Because of the change in the way we think, act, decide, we are contributing to a larger movement to raise awareness, authenticity, and real impact. And while this discussion is going even further, it becomes clear that the journey of transformation is not linear or easy. It is about having the courage to confront the truths of the internal willingness to learn from their own mistakes, and above all, a relentless learning. Because at the bottom of this hike is on a constant quest for authenticity, for you to align with what you really are, and we want it to. And in the process, we have found that the biggest key is to have confidence in our own truth, even if it goes against the expectations of the world or of our own questions. It is at this point that everything started to make sense to you, and the power to carry on exactly such a deep connection with our inner selves, that which reveals the true impact of what we can create when we live according to our nature. I know that all of this seems to be an invitation to reflect on it, but it is, in fact, it is a call to action to the conscious. Because the realization of those behind the scenes, invisible to the mind and heart, we can begin to make choices that will truly transform our experience. Every decision, every thought, and every step in the direction of the authenticity of a seed planted in the fertile ground of our evolution. And when you dress them up with care and courage, you start to realize that we are the primary responsibility for creating a life more in tune, more real, more powerful. That's the beauty of this journey. It is our own, unique and full of possibilities and just terms, the courage to look beyond appearances and dive deeper in one's own truth. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens when we understand that the decisions we make every day to shape not only our present but also our future, in ways that oftentimes we can't even imagine. For each choice, as small as it may seem, bears the load of an impact that reverberates in our journey of growth. And a lot of times, the load is invisible to the eye, silent, like a seed that is being planted in our hearts and minds, waiting for the right moment to bloom. That's what's important for you to develop a mentality, aware, and learn to listen to that little voice inside you that many times they try to warn us, but because of fear or lack of attention, we end up ignoring them. The truth is hidden behind so many of our actions is, in essence, are the most responsible for the results we have achieved. And that responsibility is not a burden, but as an opportunity for reinvention. Because when you realize you have the power to shape our decision-making, we can begin to understand what we can, however, change our lives, even in the face of obstacles apparently insurmountable. This is a revelation of the powerful that a lot of people will only understand after being in the moments of crisis or a time of deep reflection. It's as if, suddenly, the full impact of the choices in the past to be a valuable lesson, a world map that points to a new way, more in line with who you really are and want it to be. A journey of self-discovery. The more it sounds like a philosophy far, far away, it is in fact common practice in the day-to-day. It's an exercise in being present and to question our own motives and to allow us to get out of your comfort zone. After all, it is the area of discomfort that we find the greatest opportunity for growth. When we are faced with our limitations, with the limiting beliefs, you have two options, either to accept the status quo or choose to change it. And a lot of the time, this change, the courage to confront the truths that we would rather hide it, either out of fear, self-doubt, or simply too lazy to look for our own soul. This process of transformation, it is like taking a journey behind the scenes, where everything is happening the way they are silent, almost invisible, until one day you realize that what looked like a small or insignificant, it had a huge impact on our lives. It's like a domino effect, a decision taken with sincerity. It can trigger a series of events, either positive, it will take you to places you never imagined to be possible. And along the way, we learn that true strength comes from within, not from our ability to choose and act for ourselves. We have to believe in your own truth, even if it goes against what the world expects of us. As we move forward in this direction, we have begun to understand that authenticity is of a gateway to a fuller life. When we let go of the masks and the external expectations, we begin to hear more clearly what it is that really matters. And at this point, the transformation is no longer something foreign and goes on to be an in-house expertise and a deep connection to who we are, in fact. It is then that we discovered that our activities can have an impact not only in our own reality, but also that of those around us, building a network of influence that can change the world around us in ways so subtle but powerful. And yet, this day will never have an end, because they live in a manner that is aligned and it is true. It is an ongoing process. Every day brings a new opportunity for reflecting, adjusting your course to learn something new about yourself. And, in doing so, with the courage and awareness, we can begin to understand that true freedom is the ability to be who we truly are, without fear of judgment or of losing their approval. Considering all this, it is clear that the transformation is not a one-time event, but rather a building of the day, and it requires attention, dedication, and a dose of courage to face up to the truths that a lot of times we would prefer to avoid. It is a constant invitation to look beyond the surface, to explore behind the scenes of our own stories, and discover the potential that lies within us all. And in doing so, we realize that every decision you make is an opportunity to create a narrative that is more authentic, more powerful, and above all, for most of us. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth which is hidden by the back of the choices we make, are often hidden in the small decisions in the day-to-day, the ones that seem insignificant, but it actually helps to shape who we are and what we can do." We live in a kind of a movie, where the majority of the time we only see the script as external, and the scenes in which they appear on the surface. But most of the time, the one that actually determines the outcome of our story is the behind-the-scenes details invisible to outside eyes, and that, if discovered, could become quite the journey. These are the decisions of the silent, often impulsive. They carry a burden of emotional and mental that becomes part of the crowd. An exchange of words, there is a choice of attitude in the face of a difficult situation, an attitude that seems small, but in essence reveals our own state of mind. Each and every one of these actions, no matter how simple it may seem, it is a very important part in the construction of our way of thinking and the impact that we make, and, as a result, the transformation that we seek. Many times we are so focused on the end result that you forget that it's the way it is done in such a small daily choices that, when added together, to create a narrative of growth or stagnation. In order to better understand this dynamic, we need to reflect on the behind the scenes of your own mind. How does it work when we are faced with the challenges? Because our emotions influence the decisions of the fastest ones, the ones that come before you even think about? Find out these answers. It's like opening a door to the truth is hidden, and often we can keep looking forward. The biggest revelation here is that it's the true transformation happens when we are able to observe these processes are built with honesty and courage. It's not enough to just change the action outside if the inside is not lined up with the change. And at this point, it is important to understand the impact of our choices, not just our history, but also of the universe around us. For each choice, as small as it may seem, the echo and the network of connections that we have built. Have a positive attitude, with a word of encouragement, a decision to forgive him or move on, can set off a chain of events that, in the future, are going to show you how much you're able to transform the situation. This is a journey to discover the behind-the-scenes adventure of self-discovery, a quest for authenticity, which allows us to create a story more in line with who you really are and want it to be. When faced with this fact, we find that many of the limitations that we have are, in fact, the buildings built it we can break down with a conscience. It's like having a roadmap to the old one, full of obstacles, and the routes are pre-established, and now you can open by choosing new places and new stock, and especially the new feelings and emotions. The courage to explore these behind the scenes reveals the very essence of our inner power and strength, the one with the potential that is often hidden under layers of fear, self-doubt, or simply the routines are performed automatically. We are living in an era of self-transformation, became a real revolution in the house, and it is this revolution that begins in the mind, and the mentality that we have adopted in the face of adversity. It is the decision to see beyond that which is apparent, and to seek the truth, which is hidden by the back of each and every situation. When we are able to do with this move, everything around you starts to change as well, because this is an inner change, is the impact that resonates in our own reality. It is at this point that we realize that what our history is, in fact, a creation of a daily work of art that you can paint with all the colors of courage, authenticity, and commitment. And here, again, is a reflection of the journey of self-discovery never ends. Each step forward reveals a deeper layer, a revelation that helps us better understand who we are and how much of an impact we can have on the world. It's a constant search for the alignment and connection with ourself, the more real. And in this connection, in turn, strengthens our ability to make choices choices that are more conscious, to act with purpose, and make a statement true in the story that you are writing about. And in doing so, we become more and more responsible for this narrative, one that is aware of that each and every decision, it is a building block of life in all its fullness, authentic and powerful. So, think of this behind the scenes. In the true occult, that a lot of times it is hidden beneath the surface. It's a way of preparing yourself for a new level of transformation. It is an invitation to look more closely at the inside, to realize that the power to change not only in the external actions, but primarily on what happens in our mind, in our soul, in our heart. This understanding gives us immense freedom to create our own history in order to decide which of the scripts are written and which of the scenes they will be left behind. So, we went ahead with the assurance that each and every choice, no matter how simple it may seem, bears the potential to take us to places that we never imagined, and, in it, the curiosity to reveal behind the scenes of your own story become the greatest ally in our journey to the truth, to the transformation permanent. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that we begin to understand that true transformation happens not only in the external actions, but above all, in the way that we frame our way of thinking in the face of the decisions that we make. Many times we get caught in the illusion that external changes are enough to change the course of our history, but it is the truth concealed is that it all begins within ourselves, our deepest beliefs, our thought patterns, and our ability to see beyond the obvious. When we look at our lives and we understand that the choices they have made over time were influenced by a number of conditions that we are not always conscious. In these conditions, a lot of times, they do come from the past experiences, opinions of third parties, or even in a culture that teaches us to accept certain limitations, such as being in the final. The big question is, to what extent are we really in control of what goes on with our story? Or are we just reacting to the circumstances, allowing them to dictate the pace of the journey? To find out that we can play an active role in the construction of our own destiny, it's a revelation too. It gives us the chance to rewrite the narrative, making choices that are aligned with our values as a more authentic to what we really want in our lives. But this process is about having the courage to challenge our own limits within, to question what we've been taught, and above all, to make way for a transformation that goes beyond the surface. When you immerse yourself in the universe is built, we have started to notice the change in demand with a growth mindset of constant learning, of understanding that making mistakes is a part of the path, and that every obstacle is an opportunity to improve. In this context, the impact of a decision to no longer be something random, and it happens to be seen as a natural consequence of a mindset ready to soak up knowledge, to reinvent itself, and to move forward with resilience. But, in order for this journey to be truly effective, it is important to understand that the key is not to authenticity. Don't even try to follow ready-made formulas or copying successful models that look perfect on paper. Each and every person has its own story, lessons learned, and their aches and pains, and it is this uniqueness that should be appreciated. When we connect with who we really are, we can make more informed decisions that are aligned with our inner selves, the one that maximizes the impact we can make in our lives and in those around us. And there's something even more wonderful in the process. When you assume the responsibility for the choices we make, we can begin to look at life from a new perspective, and where the truth is hidden from one's own limitations is seen more clearly, and give us a chance to interact with more of a purpose. That clarity, in its turn, impels us to break out of the old standard, and to challenge the status quo and embrace a journey of self-discovery that never ends. After all, the most far-reaching transformation is that it happens in our way of thinking, our way of interpreting the world, and particularly in our ability to decide who they really want to be. At this time, the story of what we are building is getting a new dimension, as we become mere spectators, and we are the protagonists of assets. Every action, every thought, every decision is amended to reflect an understanding of the conscious, of which we are the authors of our own destiny. And when you do that, you start to see the impact that we want to create a world that is intimately connected to how we think about our challenges, our deepest truths, and the courage to transform each and every one of these things is a driving force for change. In the end, this is a journey of self-discovery, and transformation is not something that can be done at one time or another. It is a continuous process, a constant search for a better understanding, and to align our actions with what we believe to be the essence of true. And along the way, each and every step brings us a new revelation, and to the new possibilities of the impact of a broader understanding of who we are and the power we have to shape our own destiny. It is in this movement that we find true freedom, and that which is born of the understanding that the story can be rewritten as often as we choose to act with courage, authenticity, and purpose. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation does not change the external or actions that are time-sensitive, but rather by a change in our way of thinking and the way we see our situation, and especially in the way that we have decided to respond to situations that challenge us. Many of the times, we are caught up in the patterns and the automatic constraints that we have been taught since I was as a child, and you end up limiting your potential for growth. These limiting beliefs, and often unconsciously, to act as a filter that distorts our perception of and end up sabotaging any attempt to evolve. The great thing is to break these locks are built in. It takes a keen eye and a heart of genuine to confront the things that a lot of times we would prefer to ignore. It's that time of listening to the inner you that you start to see that the truth is hidden. It is not outside, but within us, in our own history, the ideas that have built up, and the emotions that we turn into obstacles. These things indeed are the seeds of the transformation of potential, but it did not become the obstacles because we didn't have the courage to face them from the front or from the questioning of one's own certainty. To understand this, it becomes clear that each and every decision we make, every choice we make, it carries an impact that reverberates in our journey. And this impact is not only in the present, but in the future we're building, heading in the direction that we are taking in our life. It is as if the decision were to be a part of the puzzle to fit together, to reveal a new image with a new perspective. And the more aware we are of them, the more aligned we are with our purpose, and the fact that we want to create for ourselves. In the process of self-discovery, a look behind the scenes of our mind will prove to be as territory discoveries, where you can uncover the sources of our deepest emotions, to understand why some of the choices seem to be so difficult, and at the same time, it's so necessary. It's right there, in that silent, that we may find the answers that we seek if we have the willingness to go above and beyond for the family. The journey of transformation, it requires the desire to explore the behind the scenes, to see beyond the surface and question all the things that we've been taught, and that many of the times, it doesn't make sense in our present-day reality. When you immerse yourself in these scenes, we can begin to understand the importance of nurturing an open-minded, flexible, and resilient. The real change happens when we learn to transform our emotions to tools for growth rather than the obstacles. And this change, in turn, has a direct impact on our ability to make decisions, to act with authenticity, and create a narrative of the life that you truly resonate with who you are, in fact, stripped of their masks or masks of social and hiding our true potential. It is in this movement of self-discovery and courage they begin to realize that our history can be rewritten at any time. Every day is a new opportunity to make choices that lift us to connect with our deeper purpose. It's not an instant change, but it is a continuous process that is shaped by the small actions of daily living, decision-making, which reinforces our true nature. And in doing so, we are the authors of a history that is more authentic, more in line with the impact that we have on the world. The truth is hidden that many of the bear is that this change mainly depends upon our willingness to look beyond the surface, to question the truths that have been imposed upon, and to seek a deeper understanding of who we are. When we do that, everything around you starts to change as well, because we operate from a source of genuine strength in the interior. And this force, in turn, is able to inspire others to also embark on their own journey of self-discovery and evolution. And so, to fast forward through these scenes to internal, we see that true freedom is born out of the realization that we are all responsible for the shaping of our destiny. There is no blame, not insurmountable obstacles. There are only choices and perceptions, and the courage to follow the exploring of the potential change. This is the culmination of a journey that never ends, because with each new enlightenment, to each and every decision, with the authenticity, we opened up the space for the transformation even more. And this change, in turn, affects not only our lives, but also the impact that it can have on the world around us, creating a chain of change that starts within us, and if it extends beyond the boundary. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the journey of transformation is not something that happens at one time or another, nor is it the result of a magic trick or an attitude to time. It is built with the day-to-day, with the small decisions that add up to create a real revolution in the house." And it is at this point that a lot of people get lost. Realize that the key is in the consistency, the courage to face your own truth, and to the willingness to evolve, even when the way seems hard to fit into the story. After all, it is the real change requires a continuous delivery and a willingness to break down and rebuild several times over the course of history. In this scenario, many don't realize that the biggest obstacle that is in your own mind, that a lot of times it creates invisible barriers and limitations that are self-imposed. This kind of faith, nourished by the experiences of the past or fear of the unknown, they function as a system of constraints that prevents them to progress. To break through these limits, it is necessary first of all to acknowledge the existence of these beliefs and question them. The truth is hidden. It often is the way in which we interpret our own stories, the narratives that we tell ourselves, and that too often to reinforce the feeling of being helpless, or that we will not be able to achieve what we want. The processing then goes through a process of auto-questionamento be true, where we need to be willing to face what's behind the emotions, the doubts that keep us from moving forward into the excuses that we use to justify our zone of comfort. It is at this point that the mind begins to turn to, because you believe in your ability to change is a critical step in the follow-up actions have weight and meaning. Don't you just want to move out? You need to change it from the inside, at the core, at the root of who you are. And to make this read more in-depth, we realize that the choices they make in this process are not isolated, but rather part of a larger mosaic that reveals a journey of self-discovery. Every choice, every action, conscious. This is a piece that has contributed to the creation of a new reality. And this new reality has the power to impact not only our lives, but also the lives of those around us. After all, when we get older versions that are authentic to ourselves, we inspire others to do the same, thus creating a chain of processing that goes beyond the boundaries of personal and become a movement and social impact. In this moving, behind the scenes of our minds, and our hearts become the scene of the revelation. It is here that we find the truths that are hidden from those who, until then, had been hidden under the layers of fear, self-doubt, or confusion. And, to prove this truth, we have a chance to rewrite our stories and create new meanings for what seemed to be a permanent basis. This is the essence of a far-reaching transformation. This is not a change in the surface, but the internal revolution that reverberates through the rest of our lives. And so, as we think about all of this, it is clear that the impact of a genuine change extends far beyond the visible actions. It's all in the way we see the world, to the way in which we relate to our emotions, and the courage to move forward even when the path seems uncertain and full of obstacles. This is a journey of self-discovery, and reinvention is a continuous, because each and every step that we take up, new possibilities for growth are revealed. And then, in a constant flux of change, we find an invisible force that pushes us to the next. Come back again and again for more authenticity, more of a connection with our inner selves. Because of this, I want you to imagine that each made a conscious decision that you make is like a seed planted in the soil of your life. Some will grow more quickly, others will require more time, but all of these have the potential to give rise to a powerful transformation. This change is not just about achieving the goals of the materials or the surface, but when you become someone who does not live according to your deepest values, someone who understands the impact that their actions may have on the world. After all, it's the true transformation, is that it frees you of our potential, making it possible for us to see that we have been able to create a reality in alignment with who you truly are, a fact that reflects our true over the years. And then, when you realize all of this, it is clear that the path of transformation and is made up of choices, daily small actions that, taken together, have the power to shape who we are and what we can achieve. And it is precisely at this point that the day-to-day becomes an adventure that is so fascinating, because each and every step reveals a new layer of potential and an opportunity to connect with our inner selves more fully. And so we go forward, aware of the fact that the biggest impact we can make is the one who is born of inner change and so genuine that it manifests itself in our actions, in our words, and above all, in our way of life. In the end, I want you to think about the meaning of all of this, thinking about his own history, and of the changes that you have experienced or that you even want to try. Because deep down, that the quest for authenticity, for a life that is aligned with our truth, it is a journey that never ends, but it's always worth it. And every time you allow yourself to look with courage and honesty, it gives you a step further in the direction of a change that actually makes sense for who you really are. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation. It is just in those moments when we decide to delve into the essence is the same, even when the path seems uncertain and full of questions. It is at this point that a lot of people go wrong, is not because of lack of desire, but because they don't understand what the process will be in line with the truth, the courage to be continuous. It is not a change in time, such as one early decision that, once taken, do it all at once. It is a journey of self-discovery, where every decision, every reflection, every little bit of action, you build a new version of yourself. And this does not happen in a linear fashion. It is filled with different nuances of ups and downs, moments of doubt and revelation, which seem to pop up out of nowhere. But in fact, it is there, just waiting to be discovered. When we first started to look into it with such sincerity, we realized that many of our long-held beliefs, the ones that you'll carry for years, and are, in fact, the walls we built to protect us from something that is, for the most part, not been able to identify as clearly as possible. And it is precisely this kind of protection is that you will need to be picked up, so that we can see beyond it, so that we can better understand who we are. In fact, no masks, no filters. This is a delicate part, because it requires us to face our own shadows, our sorrows, our shortcomings, but also to our full potential hidden from view. And when you do that, you start to realize that life is not a matter of perfection, but originality. When you can't accept it in its entirety, with all our imperfections, we are a giant step in the direction of a transformation it truly meaningful. A lot of people think that this day is also marked by major events, but in reality, it is revealed in the details of day-to-day. In the silence, in the selection of the most honest, the decision to abandon the things that are not good for us, even if it is uncomfortable or unsure. It is, in the routine. The routine is the question, can adjust the direction in which everything is built. And at the same time, this routine for auto-questionment memento reveals the true, hidden. We are so much more than the stories of the past, rather than the opinions of others or the expectations that we have. We are the sum of the chances, the dreams, the forgotten, the passion to insist on staying asleep, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Those who embark on this journey of authenticity, you need to understand what the impact is going to in addition to changes at the surface. He has transformed our way of thinking, our way of looking at the world, and especially our decision-making. Every choice you make, from the moment that we are in alignment with our truth and echoes in our history, while creating a chain of actions which seem at a first glance minor, but that in fact have the power to transform all of reality. This realization is liberating because it gives us a sense of control and ownership in one's own life. The most fascinating part of it is that, at the same time as we take on this responsibility, and we realize that this process of change is, in essence, a journey of discoveries and revelations that are going to unveil the layers of who they really are. When we are faced with the truth that is hidden, a lot of people ask where they can get it, if it really is possible to make a living in a way that's more aligned closer to the truth. This is the courage to continue on, even when your path seems fuzzy or riddled with obstacles. Every obstacle is, in fact, an opportunity for growth, a chance to learn something new about yourself. And then, in a movement of self-awareness, which seems to be a limitation, as if you transformed into a gateway to a stronger, more authentic. It's as if, when it comes to facing our fears, and discover that they are, in fact, portals that take us to a whole new level of understanding and connecting with who we really are. In this process of change, behind the scenes often remain invisible, hidden under the layers of insecurity and doubt. But that's the beauty of it, is just that at the heart of all the things that aren't seen in the power of the one who continues the journey, even when everything seems to be falling apart. These are the scenes that helps to shape our history in a way that no one can see it from the outside. But in fact, that is what gives meaning to our personal growth. And the more we connect with the truth within it, the stronger it gets. This structure is invisible. It is supported by a new type of thinking that breaks away from the old paradigm and that opens a space for genuine freedom. And it is at this point that we realize that the true transformation is not a search for perfection, but in an accepting heart of who we are, with all our flaws and strengths. And in so doing, we can begin to understand the impact of our authenticity. It is not only built, but the echo in all areas of our daily lives, influences, relationships, career choices, and even the way we think about the challenges of the day. Every decision you make, from a position closer to the truth, it's like a seed planted in the direction of, in order to live more fully, more in tune with our purpose. And even though the path is full of wonders, all that really matters is the courage to follow and continue to move forward, even when on the horizon appear to be distant or unknown. That's the beauty of the journey of self-discovery. She's never really ends, because at each step we have discovered a new layer of ourselves and new opportunities for growth. And in it, we see that the transformation is not a final destination, but it's a solid experience in development, a cycle of revelation, and allows us to not just live in a way that is more authentic, but also to positively impact everything around you. It is a chance to build a life that is meaningful, that is a true reflection of what we carry into the heart, and above all, that allows us to be free, to be who we really are. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the journey of transformation that we're talking about is much more than just a change of surface, or in an adaptation the moment. This is a genuine internal revolution, a revolution that challenges our own beliefs as it moves into the very essence of who we are and who we want to be. Too often we allow ourselves to be carried away by the idea of evolution, which appears to be simple, almost automatic, but in fact it requires the courage to face hidden truths, which, for some reason, we'd rather leave hidden. It's like opening a door that takes you behind the scenes of our countryside, where all of the things that we don't strive to be worthy of the show starts to come to the fore. And that's when the transformation is really going to happen, because when we're faced with the truth that is hidden, we can rebuild it with a new narrative, one that is free from the masks to the fears and limitations that have been imposed upon it by the world around us. In the process, we realized that a lot of our decision-making, the more impact it did not come from a rational logic, but on an emotional connection with the deep, with what you really believe in. And many times in this connection, it is distorted by the constraints that we have been taught since I was a child, on statements by the expectations of others, which turned out to be our own truth. It is as if we are living in a dramatic play in which roles are predefined, and it is only after a certain awakening we realize that we all have the power to change the script, to create a story that actually makes sense for those who are into nature. It is liberating, as it gives us the autonomy to choose our own direction, and, perhaps most significantly, it allows us to understand that true change begins from the inside to the outside, in our way of thinking, our way of looking at the world and ourselves. When we dive deep in this world of self-awareness, we can begin to understand that each and every decision, no matter how small, is an act of the statement of our originality. When we act with courage, to look for the things that really make us happy, we are, in practice, to break with the patterns that trap. It's a kind of a silent revolution, which is often not understood by those on the outside, but it has a profound profound impact on our lives. It's as if we're bridging the gap between who we were yesterday and who you can be tomorrow, and that a bridge is made up of choices from small actions that, when added together, they create a new reality. And this fact, in turn, reflects a change in the mindset that influences not only our experience, but also the impact we can make in the lives of those around us. For this reason, in this journey of transformation is so amazing, because it turns out that the real power lies in our ability to make decisions, to reinvent ourselves each and every day, to embrace our vulnerability, and at the same time, you can use this vulnerability as a strength. It's a move that requires courage, yes, but it's also an abiding faith in the possibility of living a life more aligned with our values and dreams of the most profound. And when we do that, we can begin to understand that authenticity is of the greatest gift we can give to ourselves and to the world, because it moves, inspires, transforms, and creates a string that is the impact that it can do so much more than we think. And all of this happens when we, in fact, that we no longer live up to the expectations of others, but rather to the fact that it touches the inside of the heart. Now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the connection with our inner selves is the key to this whole transformation. It becomes an experience of the real, long-lasting, and that really makes sense. It's as if, when you understand who you are, in fact, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together in a natural way to reveal a life more in tune, more complete, and more accurate. At this point, we realize that the journey has no end point, but rather a never-ending cycle of discovery, to recover from constantly on the increase. And then, when you go this way, we can begin to understand that our most important mission is not only to change for a change, but to transform themselves to become more authentic, more aware, and more connected with all of the things that really matter. Thus, each and every step taken in this direction, it becomes a statement of liberty, and a statement that you are the true authors of our own story. And so, as I reflect back on all of this, it is clear that the transformation is not a final destination, but an experience that repeats itself in our lives and to shape our actions, our thoughts, and our emotions. It's a cycle of revelation that tells to get out of autopilot and take control of your own narrative, one that is brave, true, and above all, self-love. Because deep down, this is the most important lesson of all. To understand what is the real difference begins with our willingness to be honest with ourselves, to be free of all of the things that limit us, and to embrace it, in fact, who we are, from the inside to the outside. And so, we continue on this journey, knowing that every decision is an opportunity to make an impact, to leave a positive mark on the world, and perhaps inspire someone else to discover his own true hidden. If you've read this far, I want to say thank you for joining the conversation until the very end. It is exactly at this moment that we get to reflect on everything that has been shared, and to understand how this is a journey of self-discovery is a continuous, full of colors and possibilities. I hope that these words are resoado in any way, and you will be able to bring this thought to your day-to-day. If you think that the content made sense, and it leaves your like, it helps to keep this space alive, and for us to continue bringing you the issues that really make a difference in our daily lives. And of course, if you want to continue to explore this topic, or to find new ways to get to know better, and keep an eye out in the next video, is right here on the side that complements with this idea. You can click and keeps me there. Oh, and if you in the course of something you have touched in some way, or if you've made it this far with a special message to share, leave a comment. I'm with you till the end, and I like to know when someone identifies themselves as inspiration, or just want to share the experience. It makes a world of difference. So, is this an invitation for a follow connected? Because it's the best of the journey, it's just that the exchange of experiences and lessons learned. I'll see you in the next video with a new story, tips, tutorials, and ideas that maybe can help you to find out more about who you really are. Until then, keep being this wonderful person who seeks always to move one step at a time.